Hey you guys, so I wanted to come on here and talk about a situation involving one of Agent Orange's incompetent cabinet members, Betsy Devos, aka Clueless. Now before I read this article, I just want to say this. Trump himself does not come from an educational background, therefore his ineptitude at choosing the Secretary of Education should have come as no surprise that she is ill-equipped to proficiently handle and understand the sensitivities that this position encompasses as it pertains to not only the educational component for students in this country, but also their safety and their health. And while she may have this position, she has been challenged in the past. I actually recall watching a conference that required her presence in which U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren asked her questions about whether or not she ever borrowed student loans, to which she admitted her inexperience with this process and her admission that she never conducted or supervised a program that involved loans or Pell Grants should have been enough for this woman not to occupy this position.
I think it's important for the person who is in charge of our financial aid programs to understand what it's like for students and their families who are struggling to pay for college. Mrs. DeVos, have you ever taken out a student loan from the federal government to help pay for college?
I have not.
Have any of your children had to borrow money in order to go to college?
They have been fortunate not to.
Have you had any personal experience with a Pell Grant?
Not personal experience, but certainly friends and students with whom I've worked.
So you have no personal experience with college financial aid or management of higher education.
I want to introduce you all to this amazing new sponsor, Ash Kickin. They are a Black-owned health and beauty business that specializes in a multitude of potent and formidable products that will help enrich your skincare regimen. They take their time handcrafting some of the products so you know it's authentic and made with love and care. My personal favorites are the body butter and the African black soap. These both help to keep my skin clear and free of acne, and the best part is their health and beauty products are all natural. They also have hair care products unique and specific to our hair texture. Definitely make sure you guys check that out. The best part is every time I order from them, their shipping is fast and reliable, so make sure you guys check out Ash Kickin at www.ashkickin.com. Follow them on Instagram at ash.kickin. Like their page on Facebook. Make sure to follow them on Twitter at officialashkick, and use my code ChrisMoore1 at checkout to get a discount on your skincare and health products. ashkickin.com. I also want to say this before I really get started. I am in no way endorsing a political party here, because a lot of people will think that I'm trying to support the Democratic Party, but I can assure you that that's not the case, as this commentary unfolds for the 1,000th time. And I'm not in support of Democrats or Republicans, because neither one of them do anything to uplift the Black community other than symbolism, and they're not going to. As you guys can see, this woman clearly should not be the Secretary of State. For me, I would have as much educational background as possible before appearing to a board who will rigorously interrogate me to see if I'm capable of handling a position of prestige. I provided to you guys this little commentary and background for a reason, and it ties into the title of this video if you didn't know who this woman was previously. So let's go ahead and get into this article. It says here, Presley hits DeVos over reopening schools. I wouldn't trust you to care for a houseplant, let alone my child. Representative Ayanna Presley, Democrat of Massachusetts, swiped at Education Secretary Betsy Devos on Sunday after the Trump administration official doubled down on her push for students to return to school. In a tweet knocking DeVos on Sunday afternoon, the first-term lawmaker directly called her out, writing at Betsy DeVos, "ED, you have no plan. Teachers, kids, and parents are fearing for their lives. You point to a private sector that has put profits over people and claimed the lives of thousands of essential workers. I wouldn't trust you to care for a houseplant, let alone my child," she continued. It is not only imprudent, irresponsible, and inconsiderate in regards to the millions of lives at stake, and to think that your opinion outweighs the opinion of CDC scientists and researchers and other various forms of officials who deem it not safe for the majority of this country to basically return to their routine. But you have the caucasity and entitled Karen arrogance to think that it is in their best interest to return to an environment where a lot of students will gather, potentially putting them at a higher risk for contracting this virus. And see, this is why we came up with the moniker of Karen, because Karen refers to a Caucasian woman who typically has this prerogative to think that what she say goes, They want to talk to the manager. They think they know what's best for this world, as they basically exercise their brute strength lent to them in association with their Kevins to exert their overwhelmingly devastating power on lower class and oppressed groups of people. And I don't blame Ayanna Pressley for making the statement, because Betsy Devos is a billionaire. She seems like a person who's probably never faced a struggle in her life. So for her to make a decision for people in a different socioeconomic tax bracket, one where she didn't have to go through the struggles of that class of people, is beyond outrageous. But to get back to this, it said Presley's tweet came in response to remarks Devos made in an interview on CNN's State of the Union early Sunday. During her appearance, she reiterated her call for schools to resume in-person classes in the fall and push back on social distancing guidelines from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, recommending children's time meeting in groups be limited to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. Devos said, "What we're saying is that kids need to be back in school, and that school leaders across the country need to be making plans to do just that. There's going to be the exception to the rule, but the rule should be that kids go back to school this fall," Devos said, "where there are little flare-ups or hotspots that can be dealt with on a school-by-school or case-by-case basis." When discussing the role CDC guidelines should play in schools reopening, Devos said, "The CDC guidelines are just that, meant to be flexible and meant to be applied as appropriate for the situation." Earlier this month, Devos said she was very seriously looking at holding back federal funding from schools that don't reopen in the fall, despite CDC guidelines warning that children meeting in groups can put everyone at risk. The caucasity that this woman is in possession of speaks volumes, because she is speaking about COVID-19 as if it's just a common cold. You know, maybe 2 or 3 kids get sick. She perceives it as, oh, well, if they get sick, they just need to be sequestered or isolated and we can resume regular educational activities. If this is a result of sheer ignorance or purposeful stupidity, it really only further substantiates the reasoning behind why she should not be in occupancy of this title. But see, here's the thing. There's an orange object with no scholastic background. He doesn't hold any degrees. He only got to this position because of voter suppression and corruption, paired with the fact that he was born into wealth. And with a person like that in office, it naturally makes sense that half of his cabinet will reflect what he values, which in this case is not educational credentials. Even when we look at someone like Ben Carson, even though he clearly has the education, his common sense is diminutively absent. So his values are not placed towards education. And some of you might say that education is not a measure of one's intelligence. And yes, that may be true in some cases, but in powerful governmental positions, you would think that a stipulation or mandate would be put in place to ensure that you have a working knowledge of intermediate to advanced politics and law. And this woman in possession of the Karen mentality speaks erroneously, because using 2 adverbs within close proximity like that indicates that she lacks proficiency in language arts, because that's basic grammar mechanics. I mean, I learned that in 3rd grade, so I just find her wording to be interesting. It says here, "We are looking at this very seriously. This is a very serious issue across the country," she said. President Trump also threatened to do the same to schools that don't reopen in a tweet around the same time earlier this month. The Dems think it would be bad for them politically if U.S. schools open before the November election, but is important for the children and families, may cut off funding if not open, Trump tweeted at the time. However, it's unclear how much, if any, funding the Trump administration will be able to cut from the schools that don't reopen come fall, as Congress is tasked with appropriating federal funding for schools. This is extremely deplorable. To me, this is more of a dictatorship. It certainly isn't anything indicative of a presidency, with his threats and his consecutive patronizing of the American people just because they don't align with his ideologies, and that's childish. Betsy Devos and Agent Orange have not a clue what they're doing, and it's honestly just like watching a circus. I just feel sorry for the children who may be exposed to this virus that to Betsy Devos just seems like it's a common cold. I mean, she's completely disregarding the guidelines and overriding the jurisdiction of the CDC to practice effective social distancing, which is for everyone to stay home unless it's absolutely necessary to venture out. Cutting funding to schools when those schools, I mean, especially think about the inner city schools, need supplies, resources. They want to cut this all out if children don't go back to school while they maintain this kind, nonchalant demeanor as if it's nothing, when in reality these are savage beasts and monsters. I think for now what we're going to have to do is we're just going to have to watch to see what happens next. I've been seeing articles where even now a second wave of COVID is spreading. So this whole year has been disastrous from the start. I really hope in the meantime, though, that you guys are all still safe, healthy, and washing your hands after touching a surface, because this is very real and it is not some small common cold that just goes away within a week. That being said, just make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and share this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.